Let's go to the next part and just give some a political insight, I think, also into what the American political establishment prefers to care about. Yeah, the depravity of our leaders, what their real priorities are. And I talked a little bit about this yesterday, but I just had to play it in the context of what we're looking at here. Here is Senator Lindsey Graham talking about how, yeah, the flooding in North and South Carolina, yeah, it was definitely bad, but we got to think about Israel right now. Let's take a listen.
You can thank Donald Trump and Elon Musk for that.
You know, I've been going all over South Carolina like most people. I hadn't slept much. But look what's going on in Israel. Our friends in Israel are surrounded by people that want to kill them, destroy them, a second Holocaust in the making. And Biden says, be proportional. What is the proportional response to people who want to kill you and your family? God. They're running out of ammunition in Israel. We have to help our friends to keep the war over there from coming here.
I've been all over South Carolina, but can't you just think about Israel and our friends in Israel? I mean, look, that's everything for me. And look, there's been a lot of conversation that I've seen online, and people are always attacked. They're like, oh, talking about FEMA resources, where they've gone in the past. But the one where I think people have America dead to rights is look at all this money that we freely, without Congress, without debate, we are willing to ship overseas to fund foreign conflicts. But there are now hundreds of people who are confirmed dead from Hurricane Helene alone. Let's put this up there. 227 people have now officially been confirmed dead from Hurricane Helene. And the, quote, grim task of recovering bodies continues. Nobody knows what the final death toll from this hurricane will be. Perhaps even this hurricane will be eclipsed in terms of damage by Hurricane Milton, which we just talked about. But just consider, you know, that these entire communities destroyed. Something we talked about in a previous show here about Hurricane Helene is that the city of Asheville was one of the most booming cities in all of North Carolina. And we know that statistically 50% of small businesses never reopen after being destroyed by a hurricane. So that just sucks the soul out of what was a thriving tourist destination here on the East Coast. Actually, it had a lot of people who moved there from all across the country and then were devastated by the floods. And I can't help but think also about Tampa as well. I mean, I personally know people who just moved to Tampa. A lot of people have. That entire area of Florida, one of the most economically dynamic in the U.S., not just pensioners, but a lot of younger people, families like you talked about, who want to be able to afford a home for $300,000-400,000 grand, something like that. And now all of a sudden, you know, staring down the barrel of a similar situation. So when I just put those two things side by side, I'm just disgusted. I really am. I'm disgusted.
Did you notice that the control room tried to bail Lindsey Graham out a little bit there? You know, because he's talking about Israel while they have in the background all of the B-roll devastation from Hurricane Helene, and they very quickly get rid of that and give him just his normal background. So it's just standard Lindsey Graham talking about how Israel's running out of ammunition. Come on, control room. You could have done the people a solid there and just left the B-roll
you should have. You're right.
Like leave that split screen up for people to really get the full grasp of what's going on. But I was just thinking about how, I remember in 2020, I was down at the Panhandle driving through there, and Hurricane Michael had ripped through there 2 years earlier, 2018.
I remember that.
The devastation was still everywhere 2 years later. Like things boarded up, like, you know, debris on the side of homes. It looked like the storm had happened a month ago, but it had been 2 years. Like this stuff takes much longer to recover from, I think, than people realize. No, you're right. You know, I had the opportunity at some point, you know, to be able to see some tsunami devastation when I was in Asia, even years later after the tsunami had hit. Look, it's Asia, it's different. But I'm just, you know, to your point, even years later, it's like, wow, it's been multiple years since that happened, and there's still a lot of damage that's over here. And so when we're thinking here about storm surge and just coming some 15 days or whatever after Hurricane Helene, that really is just so
devastating for people down there, and just highlights about, let's see what the national conversation is like, you know, after this, where we were going to have Americans are in need, these people who've been devastated just in having to evacuate, and now these victims of the hurricane in Hurricane Helene in North Carolina, potentially, you know, there's some 3 million people or whatever who live in the Tampa metro area. That's a lot of people.
It's a huge number of people.
Massive. I mean, and then when we consider the impact on their lives, those businesses, all the people that are down there, you know, I would hope that the U.S. government and others can actually focus its attention on our own citizens. But I'm not going to hold my breath. Definitely not going to hold my breath. Not only because you would think in an election year, that's the time when you most want to pay attention to your own citizens and to highlight to others what, you know, the government's entire purpose is, if not for literally for disaster purposes, but instead all attention is on funding as much war in the Middle East or in Ukraine as there is possible. It's like in Ukraine, whenever, you know, a Russian facility takes out an energy, you know, whatever facility or whatever, oh, there's plenty of American dollars. I remember reading a story about how the United States is funding a small yarn saleswoman in Ukraine to prop up civil society. And I'm like, oh, it would be nice maybe if you run a yarn store in Asheville, North Carolina, if you had a similar program that'll cut you a check, basically, no questions asked, and perhaps now in Tampa. So yeah, I'm just genuinely disgusted by the attitude around this entire thing.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.